Hello, guys and girls. Hey, chat. Welcome to the stream. This special unpopular opinions edition of, well, the Scream franchise, but particularly Scream 7. This is really the first time me and Rachel have had an opportunity to talk about this on a stream or on this channel. So we're going to sum up some of our thoughts going into the next Scream movie, what we think of the production overall, what could go down. But really the focus is on some of the characters and also this idea of bringing back the legacy characters, because with Kevin Williamson back on board directing this one, Nev Campbell back on board, it does seem that potentially it could be like digging very deep into that kind of thing, and all sorts of rumors are about. So that's what the stream is going to be about, us discussing it back and forth, going through the characters and some of our ideas. And joining me, of course, is the Gail Weathers of YouTubers. That is Miss Rachel Macdonald. Hello. Hey.
That.
Well, I went with Gail because I think you do have definitely an investigating journalist sort of side to you. So I went with Gail.
Not quite as nasty as she is.
Not quite as nasty. No, not normally, anyway.
Only when Keith is disagreeing with me.
Hello. So we've got a bunch of people. Hey, Russell, how are you? Hey, well, Camilla was in the chat somewhere. She was here earlier. So hello,
She'll
Camilla.
probably bounce back.
Yeah, I'm sure she will. Door Handles is also here. Hello. How's it going? We will take questions from you guys, and you can obviously react to what we're saying as well. But yeah, we'll get to your questions as much as we can do, and we want your input definitely. Okay. So, well, we can answer this one to start off with. From Russell, do you think Gail Weathers is going to be a red herring in Scream 7, a possible ghost face? I think it's possible. I could see her at least being a red herring. I'm not really sure. It's hard to say because obviously it's been a long time since really she's been considered to be a killer, like a contender to be the killer. So yeah, it would depend on the motivation, because when you've been through what Gail has been through on the other side of things, they would have to come up with a really good reason for her to be a killer or even a red herring. But maybe.
Hold on, there was that scene in Scream 6 where Tara essentially says to her, maybe you're scared that without Ghostface, you're nothing. And they could, link it to, well, she's always after the story. Maybe now she's making the story. Because there were people, I think, who did think that maybe she would be Ghostface in Scream 6. I
Yeah.
personally don't really believe that Gail could ever be Ghostface. I just don't think that that's the type of character. I personally don't think they could make it work. And I think that we know Gail too much now for her to be a believable red, if you know what I mean. Like maybe back in number 1 or number 2 when we didn't know the character that well, but we've had it for 6 movies now. So for her to be a red herring, they would have to do it in such a way that it was really believable. And I just don't know how they could do that, if you know what I mean, like what they could do to make it so the audience might actually believe that Gail could be Ghostface.
Yeah, because it was similar with Dewey in a way. Like back in Scream 1,
Mm.
and rewatching Scream 1, it does stand out how much of a red herring they make Dewey. And I think that is intentional. I don't think it's just like an accident. Like it's not
No,
just us
definitely not.
reading that. And that's something I really like about that movie, because it's the first one. So in theory, anyone could be the killer within reason. Yeah. So that was fun. And no problem. Well, Doorhandle would like to see Dwayne Martin come back since he actually survived. Is that the cameraman? One of the cameraman? Is it the one from
Maybe.
Scream 2? I would
Let me
have
just
to.
look up.
Okay.
Yes, that's Joel. That's Joel, the cameraman.
Oh yeah, so the actor's called Dwayne Martin. Okay, that's fair enough.
And
Yeah.
yes, that's a very popular opinion. A lot of people want Joel to Joel's so great. Joel knows what's up. Joel sees all of this bullshit happening, and he's like, "Oh hell no!
Yeah,
I am out of here, and I ain't coming back until it's safe." So yeah,
brothers don't
Joel
last
Joel
very
was
long in
smart.
this situation. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, that was like a nice little twist in that movie, and
Mm.
we're going to talk about nostalgia and about bringing people back because obviously we do have quite strong views. But yeah, I would. That's one I would definitely be open for, maybe because he only had a small role in like Scream 2, so he doesn't feel like a character who has been overexposed so much. So that one I would probably be fine with as long as they didn't overdo it. But yeah, fun little cameo. Okay, so let's start at the top. So getting the awkward stuff out the way first of all. Because when you first heard the news, then I'll just aren't even meant. Love that Sydney. Yeah. Okay. I'll just highlight this. Okay.
Depends
Yeah.
on the character.
Yeah.
Let Keith go first.
On the other. So sorry, what is the question exactly? Is it just
So he's basically asking us, like, do we like what are our thoughts on the fact that they keep bringing Sydney back? Like, I'm guessing he's asking, like, the
mm,
fact that the franchise keeps depending on her, keeps bringing her back. What are our thoughts on her as a character and her coming back? I'm guessing that's what entertainment's asking.
well, okay, we'll table that for now because we are going to get to that later, really, when we go through.
We
But
will definitely discuss it 100% entertainment
yeah,
lovers. So just be patient and bear with us because I think both Keith and I have a lot to say about Sydney and like her role in the franchise.
yeah, but I mean, we obviously both feel that we probably expressed it before. Then they need to come up with something fresh for her. They need to justify her existence in the movie, you know. So.
Cool. Well, looks like entertainment's happy for it to wait, and we'll be discussing Sydney soon.
So we'll get to that. Okay, so when you first heard the news that
Mhm.
Marissa Barrera had been fired from Scream 7 and the reasons why, what was your initial reaction?
It really left a bad taste in my mouth. I did not like it at all. I mean, I don't want to get too political. That's not what this channel is. But obviously, there's a lot going on in the world right now. And a lot of people feel very strongly about a lot of the conflicts that are happening in the Middle East, Russia and Ukraine, and Palestine, Israel, all of that. Melissa, as far as I am concerned, was simply using her platform to spread awareness. And I do not like that the studio used that as an excuse to fire her. Now, I know that since her firing, there have been a lot of different stories that have come out. Some people have said that she left voluntarily. Some people have said that she never got the script. Some people have said that her contract ended at Scream 6. All I know is that one day she was attached to this film and then the next day she wasn't. And it sounded like whatever happened backstage, whatever went down, it sounds like it was dodgy and it was not good. And then what I particularly didn't like is after Melissa left and Jenna decided to step down, the producers at Spyglass essentially basically let out these statements saying, we don't need Sam or Tara. I mean, we didn't need Sydney before, and the movie kept going. And to me, that was like a complete disrespect shown to like the actresses who had worked really hard and to the characters who make these movies. And it just kind of underlines the arrogance of these studio bosses that they honestly believe that it's not the characters or the actors, that it's somehow something they're doing that's making the movie go through. So yeah, this has really left a bad taste in my mouth. And every time Scream 7 comes up, it unfortunately does taint it just that little bit for me because I just think it was all handled however it actually went down. It was all
Yeah.
handled really badly from what I could see. So that's how I ended up feeling about it.
Yeah, and I'm in agreement because, what she said, there was nothing controversial about it.
No.
I mean, what it amounted to was it was an anti-genocide statement, and
Mhm.
that's something anyone should be on board with, no matter their political leanings. So,
Mhm.
yeah, she said nothing controversial. As far as I'm concerned, some of that stuff they've come out with sounds a bit like excuses.
Yeah.
and damage control. I mean, because from what we knew, things were in full swing. You know, they had a director at the time, they had a creative team, and it
Mhm.
did seem like they were on track to complete the franchise
Mhm.
with the core four again, and it seemed to be moving in that direction. So yeah, we've both said it is a shame that they didn't get to finish their trilogy, because Scream 6 was, for me, a big improvement on Scream 5. I did get more into those lead characters in that movie, and I think it's only right that they got to finish their franchise. So, I mean, what I'll say about the General Tega thing is, you know, it's probably 50-50. I know there was some debate over whether she left because of the Wednesday stuff, you know, getting her season 2. And I think it was 50-50 in some ways. I think she probably would have left because of the Wednesday stuff. But I think she was then, it was confirmed for her because of the stuff with Marissa, and thinking, yeah, that's not great. And I'll just say fair play to General Tega, because I think for her career, she's done the right thing, because Wednesday, she is the lead character. And I think that show will get at least 3 seasons, probably at least. So I think that's a good role for her. She can do the odd indie film in between. So, I think fair play. I think she's done the right thing for her career. So okay, not a fan of her acting, didn't connect with the character, that's fair enough. I mean, I didn't connect so much with her in Scream 5, but I did more in Scream 6. I know Rachel was more positive with her and the character in Scream 5. So, entertainment lover. Very sad what happened to Melissa. As someone who has loved since 2018, it was a huge bummer, especially after the massive hate she received from certain people on the internet. Yeah, sadly, there has been a lot of toxic sort of fandom on the internet, and
Unavoidable, unfortunately.
yeah, people who just haven't been fair either way. You know, no matter what you think, because as I said, in Scream 5, at least, I wasn't her biggest fan. Like, I think it was more the writing in some ways, but you know, I think no matter what you think of her, I think you have to be fair and you have to sort of be balanced. And so Russell's chipping in with Rachel is Ghostface with her murder knitting needles coming soon. And Marissa Pereira never got fired. She was just signed for 2 more movies. Well, I don't know. That's a rumor, Russell. It hasn't been confirmed yet. That's something we're going to get to in just a little bit. Okay, like, I'm not gonna comment on that door handles, because I'm not sure if that's true or not, and if it is true, it's shitty, you know, I'm never gonna justify that. You know, and I'm not someone who's in favor of attacking Nev Campbell over this things. I think her decision
Absolutely not.
is her decision, and I don't think she's portraying anyone by making that decision. But just to sum up, because, like, this is something we've talked about off air, so I'm not putting words in anyone's mouth here, but like, me and Rachel have both said that we won't be watching Scream 7 in the cinemas, because normally we would cover it for the channel. We will still cover it for the channel, but we'll wait for streaming. We're not we've but yeah, we've made that decision because we feel quite strongly about this stuff. But I can tell you guys, then, as an alternative, so some counter programming, we will be instead watching and reviewing Kevin Williamson's other film as a director, Teaching Miss Tingle. So we're going to talk more about Kevin Williamson later on, but he has only ever directed one other film. He's done lots of scripts, of course, but it was Teaching Miss Tingle with Katie Holmes, Helen Mirren, and a few others. So another sort of post-Scream slasher from the late 90s. And yeah, we're going to review that movie in the future instead of reviewing Scream 7, or at least when Scream 7 is out, and we'll get to Scream 7 a bit later on. So look out for that review in the future. I'm actually going to end the stream later with a trailer for Teaching Miss Tingle. So let's deal with a couple of rumors, because there's rumors flying everywhere all the time. And so there's fresh rumors out that Marissa Barrera might resign, that General Tager might resign. Now, I know there is a rumor that they might be shooting Scream 7 and 8 back to back, or then it could be like a two-parter. So they might be. I'm not convinced of that, but there is that rumor out there. And at the moment, it's very vague. So I think there's maybe a suggestion that Marissa might come back for part 8 if it does happen. Obviously, that's in the future. I mean, I would have thought at this point, with Scream 7 not far off shooting, then they would have the casting pretty much nailed, at least for the main parts. But what do you think about that? Any chance with that?
I think they're just rumors. As far as I'm aware, I'm pretty sure Melissa has put out statements saying that she's moving on and she's fine and she's leaving the Scream franchise behind her. Like you said, Jenna, we know that Wednesday is shooting at the moment, or at the very least that Wednesday will be shooting soon. So I just don't think she's going to have the space or the time to come back. And I honestly don't think it feels like, because it was so messy the way everything was handled. Like Entertainment saying, whatever your opinion is, the situation is, it was not handled great.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think Jenna or Melissa, I think maybe they've both moved on at this point. I think that rumors are always going to circulate. You know, when Scream 5 came out, there were a million different rumors about who was going to return. You know, you have the constant rumor that Matthew Lillard's coming back. You know, these sorts of things I think will always, especially today's age with the internet and with like a million different outlets for people to spread rumors on, to find misinformation on. Yeah, I think at this point, I don't think Melissa or Jenna will be coming back anytime soon, which is a pity. But unfortunately, you can't stop the rumor train. It's always going to be out there, and I think fans are always just going to be hopeful. I think that's the thing. You get a hopeful fan who maybe misreads one part of an interview, and all of a sudden they're saying Melissa's coming back, and all it was maybe her saying, "Oh, I really like the Scream franchise" or something, and someone just kind of snowballs it. So I don't think there's any truth in those rumors.
I would agree, and I think it's possible in the future. I wouldn't rule it out in the future, but I agree with you. I don't think there's anything to those rumors, really. So I'll hit you with another rumor which has just come out today,
Oh
and that.
dear.
Okay, well, that is then, and I think we'll talk about Kirby later. But the rumor is today that Kirby might have her own spin-off series, apparently. So
That's
a
right.
yeah. So what do you think
Mm.
about that?
Look, I love Kirby. I love
Yeah.
Kirby as a character. I don't think she warrants her own series. And in all honesty, I we don't need to make TV series out of every movie like, they did. I know what she did last summer. They even did a Scream series back in the day. We had Bates Motel that came off Psycho. It's like not everything like it
Yeah.
doesn't always need to keep being quantity, quantity, quantity. Like, why do we just keep I just it doesn't I don't I love Scream as a franchise, okay? I'd be happy for the Scream movies to continue to reinvent themselves and stuff like that, but I don't need like a million different like spin-offs and TV shows and this and that. What would they even do with Kirby? Would she be like an FBI person like hunting down various ghost faces? Like it's like what would you
I
even do with
think,
the premise?
yeah. Well, that's it. I mean, I don't know if it would be. I'm guessing she would be an FBI agent and it would be case of the week, but whether
Yeah.
they would move away, because, yeah, obviously to have her hunting down the ghost face each week would be a bit overkill. I
Yeah.
think they would have to make it then it's just general like crimes and stuff, but yeah.
Mm.
No, I agree. And I think the answer is to include the actress in the Scream movies
Yeah.
moving forward, and to give her more of a role, because she's only been in 2 Scream movies, so I think there is still stuff you can do with her character.
Yeah, definitely.
And personally, I would make her the lead in the next one. I know it's not going to happen because they've gone to all this expense to get Nev back, and clearly she's going to be the lead. But if I was making the decisions, that's what I would do. I would sort of have Nev and Gale as like kind of supporting characters, and I would have Kirby as the lead because
Cool. I would be on board with that.
yeah, I think she's got some credibility with the fans, and the actress I think can carry a movie. So yeah, that's what I would do. So I hope to at least see her play some part in Scream 7. But I think that's the answer to me. Yeah, I don't really need. I would be curious and check it out if she did get her own series. But yeah, I agree with you that we don't really need it. So yeah, okay. What else do we have? Yeah, Kirby, good actress, I agree. Yeah. Well, I've only seen one episode of the Scream one, and I hated it, but I will watch more. It just looked like that typical MTV sort of trash, but generic rubbish. But, I will watch more. Maybe it got better after that one episode. I did see a few episodes of I Know What You Did Last Summer, and I reviewed it for the channel, a few episodes, and yeah, I agree with that. Was rubbish, and it definitely made the films look like masterpieces. So yeah, thank you, entertainment. If Sydney's back, they need to. Okay, well, we'll get to Mark Kilcade, but he's somewhere in Italy apparently, and the rumors are that Scream 7 could be set in Italy. We all know it should be set in space, so I'll just get that out.
Oh God.
Yeah, I'm pushing for it. I've been getting on Kevin Williamson's back. Like, if you want my money, Kevin, set it in space. Yeah, it's a deal breaker. Okay, so moving on. Yeah, we've covered that. Okay, so let's move on to the movie itself and some of the details. So Kevin Williamson is back, and he's back as a director more than a writer, although I think the theory is that they've adapted maybe the ideas that were already in place for this movie. I'm not sure how that's going to work because you have to change it up somewhat anyway because of the change in the casting characters. So we're not really sure what format this is going to be because there's rumors it could be like some sort of a reboot. So whether it'll be a reboot or a sequel, I don't know. But what do you think about Kevin Williamson coming back and the potential of that?
Franchise from the beginning, so I think at least he'll have a good handle on how to handle the characters and how to take the story. He was a producer on 5 and 6, so I mean, Teaching Mrs. Tingle, I can't really remember it, so I can't remember whether or not his direction style is good. But we know that he has worked on many, many productions, so it's not like he's a novice coming in. So I think he'll know how to handle the characters right and how to handle the story right. What I am a little worried about is how he'll go with handling the horror. Like, will he be able to direct the scary scenes? To the extent that Wes and even Radio Silence could. A lot of those scenes are very dynamic, are very tense. So it's like, can Williamson pull that off? So yeah, I think he'll be fine when it comes to characters, when it comes to story, because those are the things that he's worked on best. It will be interesting to see what his direction style is actually like, and whether the movie is tense, whether it still has that kind of Scream feel to it. But given that he has been involved in the production for so long, I don't think he can really mess it up that badly. And if he does, then he's very talented. So I think he'll be all right. We'll just have to wait and see what his direction style is like, I think.
Yeah, because that's the thing. Like, directing and writing are two different things. People have to realize that. And when you've only directed one thing in your whole career, it is a bit of a challenge. I agree that he will probably end up being solid at least. And then it sort of comes down to how good the script is after that. But obviously, horror directing in horror is important because you have to get the atmosphere and the mood right, and have a certain sense of style. So we'll see, but I probably agree he won't be like a bad director per se, because I think he probably is a bit of a student of the game, and I think he's learned things over the years from people like Wes and maybe the Radio Silence guys and a little bit. So I agree he won't be a disaster. I just do have that question mark because directing is quite important in horror movies, and we'll see what direction it goes in. We'll see if it's more of a lighter Scream movie, or if it does lean a bit more in, because obviously Scream 6 I think went a bit more into the more full-on horror stuff than yeah. So we'll have to wait and see. I think my big issue and my concern would be the constant change in creatives, because at this point Williamson is the third different director they've had
This isn't.
on the movie, and I'm not certain about the script. That's a bit of a gray area, because as soon as Williamson came in, I assumed he was going to do the screenplay. So I don't know exactly what they're carrying over from the previous directors, what they're not carrying over, how they're changing it up. But yeah, I think creative, when you've had 3 different directors at this point, and obviously the Happy Death Day director I thought was a good choice at the time. He seemed to fit well for Scream as a franchise. But yeah, I think that's the main concern for me, is I think it's been a messy production, and I'm not sure they've really had enough time to really turn things around. So
To wait and see.
yeah, but what do you think about this idea of it maybe being like a reboot type thing, or
What's the reboot gonna be? I mean, when you think reboot, you think new characters, you think new settings, or at the very least, something different. I mean, this is just bringing Sydney back. It's not a reboot. It's going back to the beginning. So, what exactly are they going to do? Are they going to be like Halloween 2018? Are we suddenly going to bring Sydney back and ignore all the other sequels or something? Is it going to be like that? Are we restarting the timeline? I honestly don't know how you could reboot Scream if you're bringing Sydney back. That's literally the opposite of rebooting. That's like bring the same character back. I wouldn't even know where they would start. Have you heard exactly what they're going to do with this reboot?
no, no,
Yeah.
I've just heard it as a rumor. I think there's just been different things flying about, but I don't know. We're gonna talk about the characters, but I, I guess it's, if they wanted to bring back a bunch of characters, even ones that are killed off, I guess if they did a reboot, technically they could do that in theory, but I know what you mean. A reboot is a reboot. You are sort of. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure. As far as I know, it's going to be a sequel. I think it will be
Mm,
treated as a sequel.
yeah.
But we've talked about this a bit off air as well. I think sometimes there's a problem with these movies when you get a certain writer back or director who has an attachment to the franchise.
Mm,
And with some of the stuff going back and forth with fans, I think sometimes from people who haven't been as positive on the last 2 movies, there's sort of a temptation to just course correct things, and I don't think you can always do that. I think sometimes because those movies are still out there at the end of the day. They still happened. I mean, you can't really correct history. All you can do is, if you feel that stuff isn't so great, you can then improve on it and add your own sort of take on it. But I don't think you can actually. There's no point. You can't really change it. What's gone down has gone down, and And I think sometimes you just dig yourself into more plot holes, like trying to course correct. It can get more sort of convoluted. Opening kill Mindy and Chad. Well, we'll have to see whether they even make the movie. I think there's a good chance they won't, because it does feel like a bit of a fresh start, or a start again with Sydney, and certainly Gail's going to be back, and whoever else shows up. So, I mean, I know the actress who plays Mindy feels very strongly as well about some of the political stuff. So, yeah, maybe unlikely, but again, at this point, we have very little confirmed about the movies when it comes to casting. So we'll have to wait and see on that side of things. But yeah, I guess we can get into the legacy characters now, and this idea of bringing legacy characters back, and I'll run through the characters. So we're going to start with the obvious one, which is Sidney Prescott, Neve Campbell, who wasn't in Scream 6. It's the only Scream movie she hasn't been in up to this point, but they talked her into coming back for Scream 7. Okay, entertainment. Let's see. I heard rumors that there's a time jump and it's going to focus on Sydney's kids. Okay. Possible.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think there might have to be a bit of a time jump, especially if they're going in a different direction. And also, it'll be interesting if there's no core 4 in the next one. Will they make reference to them in any way? Because if it's part of the same sort of universe, and we obviously know that Sydney knows those characters from 5, so it would have to make some sort of reference to them, you would think. Okay, but let's start with Neve Campbell and Sidney Prescott. What do you think about her being brought back for Scream?
I don't like it. I don't like it. I've never liked it. I've talked about this before. Sydney's story is done. Like it's done. It's been done since number 3, and you can't keep dragging it out. For me, like, okay, so those first 3 movies, for me, they have a complete arc. Sydney, by the end of the 3rd movie, is healing. She's moved on. She's let people into her life. That's fine. And I've talked about this on other streams. I've discussed this with other people on other streams. Sydney in Scream 4, I don't love her characterization in Scream 4. But again, she's complete. She's moved on from her victim status. She's written her book. She's the older final girl. She's done. And in Scream 5, even more so. I mean, we see her jogging in public. We see that she has a mobile phone, which she never had in the previous few movies. We see that she's married, she's got kids, she's happy. So when she came back in Scream 5, I personally loved the way they used her as like the older, hardened final girl who just came in for like the final act and helped take out the bad guys. That was, I felt, all they needed. That's, I think, why in Scream 4 she feels so like superfluous, because she doesn't really have much to do because her arc is done. So dragging her back again, you're either going to have to undo all of the work done on her character, which will be a complete disservice to her character, or you somehow have to kickstart a new kind of ghost face. And it just, I don't think there's anything left to say with Sydney. I think she's done, and bringing her back feels so redundant. And I just feel like once they lost, or whatever happened with Melissa and Jenna, whatever went down, once you no longer had those characters, my thought was, okay, shelve Scream 7, give it a few years, and then come back with different characters. Don't bring Neve back. And I actually remember as soon as I heard that Melissa and Jenna weren't coming back, I remember thinking to myself, oh God, are they going to drag Neve back into this? Is that the direction they're going to go? And when they announced that Neve was coming back, I didn't feel the usual excitement that I used to feel when I would hear that Neve was coming back to the franchise. Like when they announced Scream 5 and they were like, Neve and Courtney and David are coming back, I was like, oh yeah, that's awesome. But we'd moved on. We had moved on completely. And she'd passed the torch on to Sam. And like I said, even if we weren't going to have Sam and Tara, then we should have had completely new characters. I love Sidney Prescott. She is my favorite final girl of all time. But just let her rest, okay? Like, leave her be. So I am not at all on board with Sydney coming back. And it's one of the reasons that I'm not that excited for Scream 7, because I just don't know. It's just going to be redundant. I just feel like we're just going to tread the same path we've
Yeah.
already tread a million times, unless they manage to pull something out of their butts that's really, really fantastic and just blows me away. I don't see myself enjoying Sydney's arc in Scream 7. What about
Yeah.
you?
Well, and that's the challenge which Kevin Williamson has given himself, because that's that's the pressure really. And
Mhm.
yeah, something you were saying there is kind of true, that in general, I mean, you might say this of the franchise in general, but certainly with Sydney and her side, it's a bit like how certain franchises benefit from going away for 10 years. You know, like Batman benefited when it came back with Batman Begins. I mean, there hadn't been a Batman movie for like
Yeah.
close to a decade at that point. Same with Planet of the Apes, same with James Bond a little bit. So, you know, there are examples where, you know, you bring it back and there's some fresh life. And yeah, no, I'm 100% with you. Like, I think her story is pretty much told. I think there's something like fitting and nice of having her like ride off into the sunset with her family and being happy. And I think possibly in the future you can do something with her, but I think you would have to wait. And even then, I would question it unless they've got a really good idea. Because also, when you get more into the future and she's getting a little bit older, you know, you have to be realistic with that as well. Like, how
But she's
much
not exactly a spring chicken anymore, is she?
yeah. Yeah, how much physically could she do? You know,
Mm.
that's a question mark. But I think if they did it in the future, I might be a bit more open to it, but they do have to come up with something good. And yeah, I just think they've done everything they can with the character, and there's no real reason for her to be in Scream 7. I don't think. And I think fair play to Nev Campbell, because I know there was talk about her maybe not getting, you know, the money she should when she returned for 5, I think it was. And there's a little bit of like the old sexism there, where like she probably wasn't paid the same as a man would. So I mean, if she's been able to demand that and they've come to her, then fair play on her on that. But like, yeah, like definitely very murky for what they're going to do, and if it's going to be anything that's up to much really. And and I think in some ways, like, her career maybe doesn't need it. You know, I think maybe she got a little bit of a rub of coming back in Scream 5, and I think that did get her a couple of roles, you know, as a result of that. So yeah, I think it might be the best for her career to just sort of move on in a way. So we do have a few comments. I'll scroll back up and we can respond to these. So the time jump one I've read that. Okay, Russell says Ghostface going after Sydney's kid is a great reason to bring her back. I I mean, I don't disagree, but I think again that should be further down the line, maybe with her kids. And sometimes you can overdo that stuff a lot anyway, because the Scream franchise has done that a lot with people's like family members. And I know this is something we don't always agree on, but sometimes I do find it a bit annoying that they have to tie everything back to. There's all these connections, which to me feels a bit convoluted, and you know, I think it's a big world out there. I think you can do like a new Ghostface going around killing people, but people who have no connections to the original movies. I understand why they do it because of the nature of the Scream franchise, but after a while, it does feel a bit too convoluted. So maybe in the future for Sydney's kids, maybe. So I think I've answered that. So Doorhandle says plenty of story to tell. Sydney is cursed forever. Well, that's okay, but you could then, in theory, she could be in like 10 Scream movies. You know, you can just keep saying that and just keep bringing her back. I don't think that's really an answer. There has to be more of a storyline reason. I mean, what we're saying is the character has done everything they can do with the character, and it would make a lot of sense that at this point she just wants to live a quiet life with her family. So there's only so
yeah,
yeah.
sorry, Keith, you go.
Well, there's only so many times you can bring any one character back. Yeah, and that's in anything really. So yeah.
He wasn't even like, I mean, I'm guessing Dawn Handle's saying she's cursed forever because she's always in the movies. But like, if you think about it, movies 4, 5, and 6 weren't really about her. I mean, movie 4 was all about Jill trying to get her victim status. You know, she wasn't deliberately after Sydney. She was after making herself into the new Sydney. Scream 5 was about the Carpenters, and she's not even in Scream 6. So I would say she's escaped the curse. You know, again, the end of Scream 3, the way she is in Scream 4, and the way she passes the torch in Scream 5, and how together she looks in Scream 5, and how, like I've said, we see her jogging, we see her on a mobile phone, we see her with kids. So I would not say, I think she's broken the curse. She doesn't feel like Laurie Strode to me. She's not Laurie Strode, you know, being all Sarah Connor out in the back of her, you know, in the back of the woods with all her dummies and doomsday prepping. That's not Sydney Prescott. Sydney Prescott always wanted to heal and move on, and she did. They let her heal and move on, and now they want to drag her back. It just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and I have a feeling Door Handles might make this counterpoint, but I mean, you know, I think one of the difference with Sydney and someone like Laurie Strode is I think they were quite, and Jamie Lee Curtis I think was quite savvy with this to like make sure she only came back when there was something fresh to say, like a new story to tell. I think she purposely made sure there was quite long gaps between her returns to that franchise. And I think that's something Nev Campbell should do now. I think if she is gonna, I mean, obviously she's in Scream 7. We don't know if she'll be in like 8 after that. We'll have to see. I guess there's a good chance she will be, but you know, I think that's maybe what I think Nev Campbell should do. Be a bit smarter about maybe bringing herself back when there's something fresh to say. And so entertainment shot of the third film is the perfect ending, and yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah. Even though Scream, as we both know, Scream 3 is absolute dog shit, Rachel. I don't disagree with that. Okay, what else have we got? Yeah, that's interesting. Entertainment. Yeah. So, well, yeah, so he's making that comparison to Laurie Strode, and yeah, I agree. She is probably. It's a funny thing though. Like, I think in some ways, Sydney. It's a different sort of franchise. Like, I think in some ways, like the main characters are probably more important than Ghostface in some ways, because Ghostface is typically just a guy in the mask, and you know, I understand there's a lot of history, whereas obviously in Halloween, Michael Myers is a massive part of that franchise. But yeah, you also need to keep things fresh. You know, you can't just have unless they bring her back to me. Yeah, I mean, but then I don't see the point. They could have just let her ride off into the sunset, and I think she deserves that happy ending.
Bringing her back just to kill her off would actually be a bit of an insult to her character, especially after everything she has been through so far and endured. I hope they don't do that.
Yeah, I wouldn't be on board for that. I wouldn't be on board for that, really. Okay, so entertainment also says, and to add to that, passing the torch doesn't mean we have to say goodbye to her forever. We can always come for small scenes like Laura Dern's situation in Jurassic Park 3 or what they did in 5. Yeah.
Exactly.
I think that's probably fair.
Mhm.
Yeah, and Russell kind of agrees with that. So that would be interesting. So we continue on with the legacy characters down the list. So I am gonna like chip in with a few like smaller ones, but obviously a big part of the discussion is these legacy characters. And the next one is Gail Weathers, of course, played by Courtney Cox. So she, unlike Nev, has been in all 6 movies so far. And I know when we talked about Scream 6, even though we were quite positive on it, we did say Gail's involvement was one of the weaker parts. And so, what do you think about her coming back one more time for Scream 7?
I hope they kill her in this one. Like, because Gail is,
Yeah,
again, she's run her course. She's had her arcs. She's starting to feel, again, a little redundant, and they kind of even point that out in Scream 6, especially since Scream 6 kind of really regressed her character, which I guess you could kind of maybe argue that in maybe the wake of Dewey's death, she got hard again and decided to, to become, a bit of a hardened person. But like, yeah, she like in Scream 6, I was severely disappointed when they did not kill her off, because after Dewey in Scream 5, I remember thinking, okay, all gloves are off now. They can kill
yeah,
whoever the F they want to kill. And so Gail's death scene, I know you didn't think that she was going to die, but I fully thought she was going to die when I was watching that scene. And I was so disappointed when they were like, oh yeah, Gail's fine. It was like, what? Really? That huge drawn out scene for nothing? I think they're gonna bring Gail back in this movie, and they're gonna bring Sydney back in this movie. She should be the opening kill. That's the only way I'm gonna deal with Gail in this movie. I think is she should be the opening kill, because it would be a great bang to start off the movie. It would actually maybe give Sydney a reason to come back. She and Gail are very tied together. They might not be close anymore, but they've been through a lot together. Because I just don't see what they're going to do with her in this movie. Is she going to be is she going to reform again? Is she going to regret her actions from the 6th one? Again, it feels like we're going around in circles with these characters that we've already been through and we've already seen and we've already used up, so to speak. Like, you can't just keep bringing characters back just for the sake of bringing characters back. That doesn't work. They need to have a purpose, and Gail doesn't really have a purpose anymore. So yes, Russell, I absolutely have Sydney punch her again. I'm totally on board with that. But
Uh-huh.
just, yeah, similarly to Sydney, I'm like, just, he's done. And again, I love Gail Weathers. I mean, how do you not love Gail Weathers? The woman is awesome. I mean, this shot is like from her at the end of Scream, like the original Scream movie, where she's literally almost been murdered and she's out there, already reporting. Like, she's awesome, but she's done. Scream 6 didn't even really need her. So again, unless she's going to
yeah.
be the opening kill, I just don't think there's a place for her in this movie. What about you?
Yeah, I agree. Look, I think because I enjoyed that scene in Scream 6, the scene when her life was in jeopardy.
Mm,
And I did enjoy the sort of like twist around where it was like Tara kind of punching her instead of
mm,
Sydney. So those 2 scenes I enjoyed individually, but her actual character, like I agree with you, did regress. And it's almost like she went back on something she had previously said, which was like
mhm,
she's out of the business, she's not going to write any more books, and then she goes and writes another book.
mhm.
And yeah, so they didn't progress her character in any way. And
No.
I'm not, again, a bit like Sydney, I'm not sure what you can do with her character at
Mhm.
this point because we've already talked about it. I just don't see her as a ghost face at this point. And I
No.
think you would have a hard time selling the audience on that. Like in an earlier installment, I think maybe you could convince them. But at this point, with all the history, I yeah, I don't see it. I don't.
Mm,
So I'm not sure because with Sydney, I think I could see them involving her family. With
mm.
Gail, I'm not even sure what they're going to do exactly, apart from maybe just have her play the normal sort of Gail Weathers type thing.
Yeah.
I know there's talk about her and Sydney being roommates. I mean, okay, but again,
Okay,
that's
but
not something you need, you know.
no. And a bit odd. I mean, what does she move into like the family house with Sydney and her husband and their kids? Auntie Gail's come to stay.
Yeah, yeah. So I think we agree with that. I think we remain to be convinced that she really has a place in the movie. And of course, I think they're the only two to be confirmed at this point are Gail and Sydney. Then they will be in the movie. Okay, so I mean, this one won't happen because he's been killed. But again, if it was a reboot, I guess there's a chance Dewey could show up. But I know he's been. Damn it! Haven't I used a Scream 3 image as well? That really bugs me. I think that is Scream 3. That's annoying.
Scream 3.
Okay. But from what I know, David Arquette is a producer on this movie.
Okay, cool.
So I think he'll have some creative. Well, that's true, Russell. They could use flashbacks, but again, they need to tread very lightly if they go down that path because, yeah, I mean, Dewey being killed off in Scream 5 was a big moment. I mean, I know not everybody was happy with the way it was handled, but it was a big moment and it was something they had to do. They had to kill off one of the established legacy characters because they've sort of gone 4 movies without really doing it. So, yeah, I take it there's no interest from you in seeing Dewey back, really. I think probably.
His death was, it was horrifying and sad, and seeing Gail break down over it was awful. But like you said, it was time. A legacy character had to go, and I think Dewey was the right pick because he was going to elicit the biggest emotional response from the fandom and from the characters in universe. So, yeah, it was fantastic. Dewey dying. And I agree with Russell. It was a great twist. No one saw it coming. No one really expected them to kill Dewey off. And that's what I mean. Like, once they killed off Dewey, I was like, oh my God, all gloves are off. Let's kill Gale next. Yeah. And they just didn't follow through. So it's a bit disappointing.
Yeah, the only thing is, I think they did see it coming just because the
Oh,
trailers
the
and that sort
trailer.
of gave
Yes,
it
of course.
away.
I forgot how badly the
But,
trailer gave it away. Oh, that was
but
awful.
but yeah, and as a moment, it did land quite well in the movie. And I mean, I, as far as I know, as I said, he's a producer, so I don't think there's any chance of him coming back. But if they get super nostalgic with this movie, like Russell says, I guess I could see them doing like a flashback with him or something. So we'll see where it goes. I mean, we've already had Casper Billy at this point, so I guess anything's possible. We'll see how that goes. So entertainment as another comment. With many legacy sequels today, they bring back original characters to franchise, but give them nothing to do, or the new cast and OG cast becomes even more overcrowded. Neither get development. Yeah, that's
We saw that, Keith and I, we saw that when we did, it's not a horror franchise, but when we reviewed Jurassic World Dominion, remember we talked about that, how they brought back Sam Neill and Laura Dern and Jeff Goldblum, and then they just gave them nothing to do. They were literally just there to be the legacy characters returning. And yeah, they just had nothing to do. So we totally I agree with
yeah,
that.
absolutely. Entertainment also said, even though I liked them, they did something very different with the character, and it would have been interesting to see where he'd go. But it was time for one of the 3 of Gale to die instead of him. Well, yeah, maybe either one. I mean, I think with Dewey in 5, I think because I know some people have questioned this idea then because the ghost face who killed him might have been Amber, and like, is that really realistic? But I think I'd buy it just because the film did present him as someone who's a bit more like washed up now, a bit more broken down.
Older, he's still got his limp, he's still got his nerve damage, his instincts are a little bit off. He's slowing down a bit, as you
Yeah.
do.
Yeah, and these uni kids nowadays, they're hitting the gym every day, so maybe Amber was in better shape than most, students or people of her age. So it's possible. So, okay, well, let's have some fun with the next one because it's one of the biggies and it's one of the big rumors that has been going for years and years at this point. You know what's coming. Stu Mocker. Could he somehow A, still be alive and B, show up in Scream 7?
No,
What do you think?
no, I am not on board the Stu train. And if Steven from Craven Something Scary sees this later, I'm sorry, my dude, but it's not happening. Look, okay, I understand that fans love their theories, and I never ever want to step on anyone's toes. These movies, one of the things I love most about them is that everyone can take something from them and make it their own. And I know that there are a lot of fans that love the Scream theories, the conspiracy theories. Stu's alive somewhere. Kincaid is really playing a long con. Gail is possibly Ghostface. They love all these conspiracy theories and everything. Me, however, I don't. That's not what these movies are to me. It might sound simple or basic, or like maybe I'm just a little blah, but I take what happens in these movies at face value. They tell me that Roman was working alone in Scream 3. I believe them. I see that like Stu gets electrocuted by a TV. That's it for me. And I always love one thing I actually love about Ghostface is that it's always someone different under the mask. So Ghostface itself is not like an actual being, it's an idea, and I always really loved that. And I love that every Scream movie, it's a different killer. That's one of the things I love about Scream. Look, I love my repeat bad guys. Halloween, Michael Myers, yeah, give me Michael Myers in every movie. I'm down for that. But that's because that's the Halloween franchise. Michael Myers is synonymous with that. He is the big bad. Whereas in this, the fact that Ghostface could literally be anyone, that's what I think is the scariest thing about him. So for me, if you start doing this kind of thing and bringing back these characters that supposedly have died, well, I mean, Kirby was an exception. Kirby only got stabbed once and we didn't see her body. So it was
Yeah.
actually believable that she might have survived. This dude got stabbed 4 times by Billy. He got conked on the head by Sydney with a bars. He got into a fist fight with her. All of his insides are all messed up. And then I know I say this over and over and over again, but it's so true. They dropped a 90s television on his head. You're not coming back from that. And so for me, it doesn't work. I understand why it's fun for other people, and I love seeing people get passionate, about talking about this because I love, that people love this franchise so much that they want to have all these theories and stuff. But no, for me, Scream is what it is, and it has a slightly more realistic feel to it. Even though we still have to suspend some, you still have to suspend some disbelief, but it's not like say for example the end of Halloween Kills Michael Myers. All right, the damage that Michael takes in that movie, you literally could not survive that, but he does because he's Michael Myers and because it's the Halloween franchise and it's always had that slightly heightened bit of extra realism and Michael's maybe not completely human. You can buy it in that franchise, but the Scream franchise isn't like that. It doesn't have it, until the most recent one with Chad being like a human pincushion and somehow still surviving. Until then, everything was a bit more realistic for me. So no, Stu coming back, no, I am not on board this train. I have never been on board this train, and I don't think I'm ever getting on. What about you?
Yeah, I think the train needs a serious re-oiling. If it's, I've cracked this joke before, but if it was a UK train, it would barely leave the station. So it's lucky it's a US train. It might have a fighting chance, but no, I mean, bravo. If I could play the Hallelujah music, I would, because I agree with everything you said. Really, I think I agree that it's unrealistic that he would survive that all those years ago. I think it's unrealistic that he's been okay. Where is he? So we would have to explain that. Where has he been
Where
all
has he
these
been?
years? Yeah. Why is he only popping up now? He's had so many years to do it. I mean, he's a rich guy. We know that. We know his family's rich. Why would he want the hassle after all these years? So I don't, and I think it would just get overly convoluted explaining it. because then I think you would have to do it in a way that's quite succinct and doesn't drag down the movie too much. And my other big reason is I think they did everything they can with Stu in the first one. It was a perfect role for him, and he went out on the highest of highs, really. I mean, you're not really going to improve upon what they did with him in the first Scream. So what's the point? Because you're then trying to recreate the magic, and it's highly unlikely you're going to do it. So on all fronts, no. I
think we've ever been in as much agreement as we tend to be when it comes to Stu not coming back. It's fantastic.
And by the way, again, I'm going to say it. Everyone should watch him in the Twin Peaks revival, Matthew Lillard.
Oh, okay.
It's his best ever performance, including in Scream. He's amazing, but we'll cover that someday. So
we can't talk about Matthew Lillard without talking about his best role ever as Shaggy in Scooby-Doo, a cinematic masterpiece. Come on.
Yeah, well, we'll do that. We'll do that one day. We'll do that around Scream 7 season as a bit of counter programming. So these are the rules. Russell having some fun, entertainment, but they need to bring him back just to put more.
Don't need to bring him back. No, agreed. They just, yeah.
Well, I agree with the second part. I wouldn't mind seeing Lillard in more horror movies, but the first part I don't agree with. But
that's the thing that Keith and I should clarify. We love Stu. We really do. Both of us. We love Stu as a villain. Both of us have him very high on like our ghost face. You know, when we rank the ghost faces, we've both talked about how Matthew Lillard is just a complete natural in the role, and just brings that fun and charisma, and just has so much fun with it. We love Stu, but it's because we love Stu that we don't want him to come back, because we don't want them to ruin him. We want that memory of Stu to remain intact.
Yeah. Okay, so Russell says if anyone needs to be brought back, it's Jill. Yes, that's quite a good idea. Yeah. And I think
she also got fried.
There is room to do that. That's Emma Roberts, isn't it, from 4? Yeah, I'm not. Well, we're going to review 4 quite soon, but I'm not.
Because we didn't do 4 when we did our review, so we do need to review 4.
They did wimp out a bit on the super dark ending. That's one of my complaints with 4, but no, I do like the character, and I wouldn't mind seeing her come back. Okay. Yeah. The Curve was great. Now, in the UK, it was Dead Man's Curve, which is a much better title. That's the Matthew Lillard character with also Kerry Russell in. It's
okay. I've never
heard of this.
No.
It's like a dark comedy, and again, he's playing a similar character to Stu, and it's this whole thing. It's set at a high school, and like there's this bully character.
2015. Okay.
No, it's like.
Oh no, wait, wrong film. No, sorry, wrong movie.
Like 97, I think this is.
Yeah,
they kill off a roommate and make it look like suicide. And there's this whole thing where in America, supposedly, if your roommate commits suicide, you get a pass on your exam or something. And it's quite funny because they do things to make it look like he killed himself. Like they sort of buy like Smith CDs on his credit card to make it look like he was depressed and stuff.
Here we go. It draws on the urban legend that a student will receive an A grade should their roommate commit suicide, i.e. pass by catastrophe. Matthew Lillard, Kerry Russell. Oh, Michael Vartan. Oh, okay.
He's in Alias, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's worth checking out. Like I watched it in the last few years. I don't think it was as good as I remembered, but it's definitely worth checking out. Yeah.
Oh, and then Russell says, and the guy from Final Destination. Which guy from Final Destination?
Okay.
Maybe he plays a minor character. But no, this does look really fun. I'm definitely gonna have to find this film.
It's worth
Russell and Keith. Good movie for me to watch.
Okay, cool. Yeah, it's worth checking out. It's worth maybe a good one to do in October. But okay, we've sort of put the Stu train back in the station. in the rust bucket in the retirement home. I will just say, I think if it's going to happen, it'll happen in Scream 7. If it doesn't happen in Scream 7,
And it won't happen at all. Yeah, I agree. I agree.
think so. I think so.
Let's just hope it doesn't happen in Scream 7.
Absolutely. So I don't know if there's much point in bringing up Billy. They've already brought him up in Casper form. Again,
Yeah.
it would be in flashbacks if they did
Yeah.
feature him, unless they're
Mm.
doing a complete flip around with the timeline. We certainly don't want any more Casper Billy. I don't think we will anyway, because it feels like this maybe is a new chapter. So yeah. Okay, yeah, no
Linked to
need.
Sam, you know, like his ghost appearance was very much linked to Sam and her, you know, legacy and the fact that she was worried about becoming a serial killer. So I don't think there's any way to kind of, yeah, bring him back and link him to Sydney unless you, like you said, unless they do a flashback. Maybe they might use some old footage from like the first movie, like flashback material of Sydney's remembering things. But I'm hoping that they don't bring him back because, like you said, I mean, I've never been a fan of Botox Ghost Billy, so I really don't want to see him again.
And I mean, since it's an unpopular opinion stream, I should reiterate my unpopular opinion that I didn't like Billy that much in the original movie.
I know! Boo! Boo!
Outside of the end scene, like apart from that, he was really a drag to watch, and I think he was very wooden in that movie. So that's my unpopular. Speaking of unpopular opinions. Speaking of unpopular opinions, I might as well mention one when it comes to Randy. So again, we can get in the weeds here because let's just say, for argument's sake, if they're doing super nostalgia with this movie, in theory they could pop up with anyone. Like they could bring Tatum back either in a flashback, or if they're rebooting it, they won't be getting Rose McGowan to play her if they do. But again, anything's possible. And obviously Randy could pop back up. They could reuse him. So first of all, Randy, yeah, that'll be his brother. That'll be, yeah. Okay, so I have an unpopular opinion about Randy, and I'm not sure if it's one you agree with or not, because we haven't discussed it. But when they killed him off in Scream 2, I was actually in favor of it. I don't know if you agree with that or not. I take it by your reactions, you're not.
Randy, look, I'm in two frames of mind when it comes to Randy's death in Scream 2. On the one hand, it's a slasher film. People have to die, you know. Unfortunately, that's just the truth. And if you don't kill people and if you don't kill your main characters, then people start to complain. So on the one hand, I'm like, yeah, okay, maybe Randy had to die because we have to kill some main characters. But I love Randy and I didn't want to see him go. And I think for me as well, with Scream 2, and this is not because Randy dies, it just happens to be the point in the movie where I start to feel that the movie starts to unravel a bit. So I always mark Randy's death as like the moment where I stop enjoying the film as much. Now, like I said, it's not actually because he dies, it's because after that, I feel the film starts to get a bit messy and starts to unravel, but it starts with his death. Also, I have some issues with his actual death scene because a whole lot of stuff had to happen to make that death scene work.
Yeah.
Doesn't quite add up. Like, you had to have him get to the van at that exact spot, and those guys with the boom boxes had to walk past at the exact minute so that no one heard anything. And you know, it just doesn't work for me. So yeah, always in two frames of mind, but I don't hate it. Like, it's not one of those deaths where I'm like, bring Randy back and justice for Randy. It's more just, I love Randy, you know, I just love him so much. And it's just such a bummer to see him go because he's such a great character. So two frames of mind when it comes to Randy.
Okay. Well, yeah, I think it was the right decision, partly because you need stakes, and I think you need a big death. And he was a big death, having survived the first movie. I like the reaction from the characters. But also, I do think over time, if he outstayed his welcome, I think he could have grated a bit as a character.
I get what you're saying, definitely.
I think there was a danger he could have become a bit one note. So I
A
actually,
bit too much.
yeah, but I agree with you about the scene itself. I have mixed feelings on the scene because I think the build up to it is very good, and I do quite like the direction of the scene. I mean, obviously the stuff with the boombox is a bit cheesy, a little bit anyway, but
Much for me.
I do actually quite like the build up to the scene, and there is suspense in the scene. You know, you're not quite sure what's going to happen. And here's the thing, like, just entertaining the notion that, hey, maybe they could bring Randy back, which I don't think they will, but like again, it's getting into the whole Stu thing, similar like the convert. I mean, what are we saying, that he was in that van and he was supposedly being stabbed all this time? I mean, what was the killer, just like missing him on purpose and just saying, hey, I'm going to pretend to kill you so that you can come back in 27 years and
no, it doesn't work. It's not. No, if they were ever going to bring Randy back, it should be the same way they did in Scream 3 with like some sort of video that he's made that they've like found and unearthed. Because they could do that, you know, because Randy was a film geek, so they could be like, oh, we found this old video of Randy's from like so and so, but yeah, no, I leave Randy, let him rest in peace. You know, he's up in heaven, just, you know, driving Tatum mad. So they're all right. Hey, Camilla.
Yeah. Hey, Camille, welcome back. Thanks for joining. Yeah, again, I think you have to tread very lightly if you are doing any sort of like flashbacks, or I mean, again, like you said, with someone like Randy, you could always have them discover a video or something like. So yeah, I wouldn't be against that. A little bit of a cheeky sort of cameo on the video or something, but yeah, that's fine. And we've sort of covered Tatum. So Camilla's back in. Stu had more personality than Billy, says Door Handles. Well, I would agree with that. I mean, I think Rachel would as well, even though she likes Billy more than I do. I like Stu's relationship with Randy. Yeah, that's true. I mean, Stu and Randy had quite a fun dynamic, which maybe people don't talk so much about.
I love that scene in the first movie where Randy's at the video store and Stu just comes up behind him and knocks the videos out of his hands. He's just like, oh. It's just, you know, and then he's just making fun of him. And yeah, they had that whole little talk about, you know, yeah, there's always some bullshit reason to kill your girlfriend. So
yeah, and the whole back and forth at the party is really entertaining. Like, really, Alicia and that stuff.
Yeah, I love that. As if. That's all I'm saying. As if. Really, Alicia. Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, they do have a good vibe. You sort of believe them as like sort of best friends.
Believe them as a friendship group. You really do. And I like that, because I did find in Scream 5, I didn't quite buy the entire friendship group, you know, like the core 4 in Scream 6, I bought much more than that supposed friendship group that Tara had in Scream 5. Whereas in the original Scream, you know, when you see them all eating lunch together, you can buy that this is a real friendship group, that these guys have been hanging out for a while. They've got good chemistry.
Okay, cool. Okay, Michael Veteran from
I didn't know from Alias.
I didn't know he was in Bates Motel. Actually, I've seen
Bates Motel. Okay, now I really have to watch Bates Motel.
Yeah, it's actually not bad. It's actually not bad. Okay, Entertainment says Randy's death was a shock, but I do agree about how convenient it was. Like, was like
Debbie's psychic. Yeah, exactly. Like, was she just hanging out in that van, just like peering out through the windows, going, hee, where is the next murder? Like, seriously, it's a bit much.
Well, you'll have to tell me, but how do we know it wasn't the other killer? How do we know it wasn't?
Because Debbie herself says it at the end. She says Randy, she wasn't going to kill Randy, but then he maligned my boy. I couldn't let that stand. So yeah, we do know that it was Debbie Salt who killed Randy.
Oh, fair enough. Okay. Well, speaking of Randy, how about a bit more of his sister, Martha Meeks?
I don't mind Martha. I love Heather Matarazzo. She's fantastic. I really love her in anything I see her in.
Yeah,
Um, and I did like that they brought her back in Scream 5. I actually thought that was a really fun connection, and I liked that they didn't forget that she'd played her in Scream 3, so I thought that was a really cool connection. But her connection is to the twins, and the twins aren't in this movie. So I don't see that there's a space for her in Scream 7 organically. Like in Scream
yeah,
3, sense because she's brought Randy's tape to them, so that works. But I mean, she didn't even really interact with Sydney in Scream 5. Her connection is the twins. So I personally don't think she's needed. I mean, if they brought her back in an interesting way, it could be entertaining, but I think Martha's run her course. She was never a main character. She was always a minor character who just pops in. But like I said, do love it they brought her back in Scream 5. But I think the character they've done what they can with her.
yeah. Yeah, no, I think you make a good point. I think that probably is true that there's not logically a place, because obviously if it was still in the same kind of, time period as like 5 or 6, maybe you would say there's a bit more of a reason. I know there's also talk of her coming back as like the opening movie kill, but again, yeah, I mean, maybe I would be up for that, but again, it depends on who the killer is, what the motivation is, because, again, that could fall a bit into the trap of, well, we're just killing her off to start with because she has a tie into, Randy. And again, that would go back to the motivation. But
Killed her. That it would beg the question of like, well, where are the twins? This is their mother. Like there would be like you would have to come up with a plausible explanation for them to not be there, and I just don't think that they could do that without bringing the twins back. And we, like you said, Jasmine Savoy obviously doesn't want to come back, and I don't know about the guy who plays Chad, but yeah, I don't think there's a place for Martha. I think it was cute they brought her back for 5, but I think that was all that was needed.
yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I'm sort of open to see more of her just because, like you, I do like the actress, and I think there's things you could do with a character as well. But I think, yeah, there comes a point where maybe sometimes you have supporting characters for a reason and they kind of serve a purpose. And like we've both said, it is a shame she wasn't given more to do with in Scream 3. Like, she definitely should have had a bigger role then, but that's in the past. I mean, again, if they did bring her back, they may even recast her. I'm not sure, but I mean, obviously, you wouldn't really need to, but we'll see. We'll see. Again, it depends how they handle it, and I think we've answered the stuff about Chad and Mindy. I think we both agree it seems like they are moving on for now, so it's unlikely either of them will be involved. And yeah,
But they both got, especially Chad, they got really good development in number 6. And I was really looking forward to seeing the core 4 return in number 7 before all the shit went down. So I'm a little bit bummed about missing out on that dynamic and missing out on like where their characters could have gone in number 7.
yeah, because it would have been intriguing to see if they finally gave one of them a big death,
Yeah.
which obviously we would have been hoping for. Now, so Martha could be a red herring. Yeah,
That's
maybe.
true. Yep. Hmm.
From that picture, she looks confused. Well, she was Randy's sister, so that can lead to confusion.
So Jay and Silent Bob wandering around on the scent and went, huh?
Yeah, what's going on? Yeah, Martha could reset Sydney. Okay, okay. Well,
Could be a motivation, but I don't think so because we didn't really see that in like number 3. You'd think that would have come out like maybe a little bit earlier, but it's a possibility.
okay. Who do you think would gotten taken out? So who do you think would take? Oh, which one do you think would get taken out?
Number
See,
7. Mm.
See, in a way, I would say Mindy, just because it's almost become a bit of a tease now than it is going to be Chad. So maybe in a way you would least expect Mindy to be the one to get killed. Like you might assume that they're finally just going to go through with it with Chad. I mean,
yeah, sorry, you keep going.
well, because it would have been the last of a trilogy. Like in a way, it wouldn't surprise me if both of them got killed in 7, but I would actually lean a bit more to do with Mindy just because you might not expect it so much.
Well, I was going to say I would have thought it would be both of them because I
Yeah.
had a theory that the reason that Chad survived the end of 6, despite the probability of it, was that they were wanting to do like a really big bloody showdown in number 7 and like kill a bunch of characters. So I was of the mind frame that both the Meeks would end up dying in number 7, because they were gonna like go out with a big bang.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, entertainment. Russell says, I've said this about Chad before. Before, Chad seems like a red hair and he got stabbed.
I know, right?
Russell's been counting them as well. Yeah, look, the way I see that is I agree with people it got a bit silly, but I also get what the joke is. I think the joke is then it's a reference to Dewey in the earlier movies. So Chad became the
Absolutely.
Dewey.
Yeah.
And that's why
That
that's
was my thought too.
yeah.
I
But
remember at the end of Scream 2 being surprised that Dewey was still alive because when he's getting stabbed in the sound booth, that's nasty, man. Like he's bleeding from his mouth and Ghostface is like tearing up his spine. And yeah, when he turns up alive at the end of Scream 2, I was like, what the hell? So yeah, so Chad, I had the same reaction. I was like, oh, you're the new Dewey. Oh, I get it now.
yeah, and they did the
I
whole shot with the stretcher and everything.
yeah.
But I love Russell Channerin is in a Loomis there. He's got stabbed 70 damn times. Awesome
Good stuff.
Well, actually, like I did have this idea for Scream 7 if it went ahead as we were expecting, but like my thing, what I would do with the Ghostface in that is I would actually have it be Tara in Scream 7.
Not Sam.
Yeah, sort of a switch around. And the reason is the motivation. I would go super meta into like the real life stuff with the stardom of Jenna Ortega compared with maybe Marissa Barrera. And I would almost play it on, I'm the little sister, I get overshadowed, even though I'm more talented, I'm more popular. Like I would lean as much into that as possible. And that would be maybe the motivation, like the sort of real life stuff.
I really like that because I swear I've had like a similar fleeting thought of what if it was Tara and not Sam who went dark? Because yeah, all the hints are about Sam. Is Sam going to give into her serial killer gene? Is Sam going to become like the next Ghostface? So for it to be Tara, that could be real. That could have been really fun.
And I think there is something about Ortega where I think she can play quite a sinister type villain. I think she just has the look, the intensity. Because I mean, I know it's not that kind of movie, but that movie I reviewed recently, Miller's Girl, that she's in, that indie film, like she is a bit more like sinister in that movie. Like she plays a little bit more of a villain. So yeah,
It could have been fun.
I think yeah, she might quite enjoy that as an actress. So I mean, that's possibly something I would have done, but that's it. Okay, so I think we're sort of rounding up the stream really because I've gone through most of the characters and we've had a good discussion. So if there's any more questions in the chat about Scream 7 or anything else Scream related or anything else, then speak now or forever hold your peace. But we'll obviously at some point we will cover Scream 7 on the channel. So Russell has some other comments. Be another shocker in Scream 7, setting up Scream 8. Now, don't hurt me yet, Rachel. It's just a theory. Mark Kilcade is Ghostface. I take it you're
Russell. Love it.
And okay, there you have it. Yeah, I forgot about Kilcade because again, he's one of the big rumors.
Yeah.
Now I know Patrick Dempsey has signed on for the Dexter TV show, the new one.
Oh, okay.
Now obviously he was in. I mean, he was in Thanksgiving, so that's a horror movie. But yeah, I'm not so sure I can see him coming back. I'm not sure Patrick Dempsey has that much attachment to this franchise.
Mm.
I mean, I think it might just come down to money. I think if they throw enough money at him, he might do. But yeah, like it wouldn't surprise me if he did. I mean, obviously, as I said, he did Thanksgiving, but I mean, the Dexter schedule probably complicates that because I'm pretty sure they're sort of filming that right now, or at least they're going to be filming it soon. But do you think he has a place in Scream 7, Kilcade?
Sydney's married to him. I mean, that's canon. So if he's not physically there, they're going to have to come up with an excuse for why he's not there, or they're going to have to recast him, which, they could do easily because he's not a huge character, So as long as you got someone who looks vaguely like Patrick
True.
Dempsey, you could probably just recast him. And I don't think the fandom would be too upset. If Kincaid does come back, I just want him to come back as Sydney's husband because, quite frankly, I don't want Sydney to have to deal with that. Okay, my girl has been through enough. All right, her high school boyfriend and the dude she lost her virginity to ended up being a psycho killer. She doesn't need her husband to end up being the exact same. And like other people have said, what has he been doing? Is he just playing like the longest of long cons, getting his James Ford Sawyer out and just becoming like a massive con man? So for me, it personally would not work to bring him back as the bad guy, but to bring him back as Sydney's husband, yeah, definitely, because we know that it's canon that they're married. So I think he does have a place in the movie if Sydney's coming back, but not as the bad guy. I don't want him to be the bad guy. What about you?
No, I would agree, and I think it could be a big kill maybe if he was
Well, that could
killed
be
off.
interesting. Yeah,
That could
he was
be
like the opening kill, maybe. Yeah, and that drives
yeah.
Sydney to maybe.
Yeah,
Mm,
yeah, because then you give her a reason to come back.
yeah.
So, yeah, I could see that. I hope he's changed careers as well because he was a shitty cop in Scream 3 and
He really
not
was,
the best
wasn't he?
cop. So I hope he's changed career. Okay, and so this is a good question because I think we've done this before, but it's always worth repeating. What are your personal rankings of the franchise? So his are 1, 6, 2, 5, 3, and 4. Okay,
I like
not
it.
bad. Yeah,
Mm.
solid. Okay, so quickly, just what would yours be? And then
So
I'll do
mine
mine.
go 1, 6, 3, 5, 2, 4.
Okay. So mine would be 1, 2, 6, 4, 5, and of course 3, where it belongs, the bottom of the
Where's
barrel.
2 in there for you? Oh, it's number 2. Sorry, I
Yeah,
didn't
yeah, yeah.
that.
It gets confusing.
Boo!
Yeah,
Kate
that's fine.
sucks.
Yeah, I was a bit. Well, I've watched 6 a couple of times now, and I did enjoy it quite a lot on the rewatch. So yeah, it's gone up above 4 now, and 4 we will cover soon as well.
Ranking
But
is interesting.
yeah, that's why we're waiting when they bring Mark Kilcade back. There is a theory that's okay. Yeah, we don't need to get into that. I'm just guessing right now. So Russell's order would be 1, 4, 5, 3, 6, 2. Okay, that's funny. So 1 and 2 bookend in it. Well, there's something quite fun.
I'm happy to find someone else who dislikes 2 as well. Like, my least favorite is 4, but 2 is my second least favorite, and a lot of people, like,
That's
don't get
madness.
that. But I just yeah, number 2, like I was talking about before, the first half is great, the second half for me just kind of falls apart. So, awesome to see that someone else feels like, yeah, well, doesn't
Well,
like
the
2 as much as everyone
the
else.
end is very strong though with 2. I think.
Is it really? Because I mean, there's some weird
I
shit
thought
going
you
on in the
said you
second
liked the
title.
ending because you
I
enjoyed
like
Laurie
I
Metcalf.
love Debbie Salt. I do love
Yeah,
Debbie Salt.
yeah.
She's fantastic. The rest of it, we yeah. There's some
Okay,
issues going on there.
okay.
And Scream 2's got some great sequences. I mean, it really does. I've talked about this before, but that sequence when Sydney is on the stage during rehearsal and she sees Ghostface amongst
Yeah,
all
I
the
really
masks,
like
I
that
think that
scene.
is one of the best sequences. Especially because it really plays on the idea of, is Sydney going crazy or is Ghostface really there? And I do like some of the characterization. I just, yeah, for me, the second half falls apart. We all know that I don't love Mickey as Ghostface, and it's just got some issues. So, yeah. But that being said,
Yeah.
and I've said this before, I genuinely do like every single Scream movie. And I'm not like making that up. Like, I will literally rewatch every single one of these movies just randomly when I feel like it.
Okay.
But when I say that, like, four is my least favorite, like, I literally mean that least favorite, not,
Yeah.
I still like it. So, yeah, this is like one of the few franchises where I really do like every single movie.
Okay. Okay. And interesting that Russell's second favourite is 4 because that's a little
Mm,
bit of a
that's
hot take.
interesting.
Now,
Mm.
I do think 4 gets a bad rap than it doesn't deserve, but yeah, interesting. We'll revisit that soon. Okay. Entertainment says, I know this isn't Scream related, but do you guys have any interest in I Know What You Did Last Summer Legacy sequel coming, especially now that Jennifer, Freddie, and Brandy are in talks to return? Well, one answer to that is I think we will do it because we are horror nerds and we review horror franchises. And after all, since there's only 3 original movies, it's not like a big commitment. So I think we will do the 3 originals and then possibly do the new one as well. So
Excited for it. I know She Last Summer and its sequels are a few of my like guilty pleasure slashes. I really
yeah,
do love the first two at least. The third one's crap. But the first two are a lot of fun, and because they came out in my favorite era of horror, I have that kind of nostalgia for them. So the fact that Jennifer and Freddie are both coming back, even though I don't love their characters, I do love the fact that the legacy characters are coming back, and it could be fun. It's just a real pity that Sarah Michelle can't come back because Helen was always my favorite character, and I would have loved to see Helen come back. But I think it will be interesting, and I'll definitely watch it when it comes out.
well, I know because I was talking about this, but of course, Camila Mendes got cast in it.
Camila Mendes, who I love from
That's good.
Riverdale, yeah, and I think
Yeah,
she'll be really good.
yeah. So that's a good bit of casting.
Mm.
I mean, again, I'm not really that excited about Jennifer, Freddie, and Brad because it's all these years later, and how much energy are they going to have? I mean, some of these people haven't acted in
Jennifer will be good. She's still pretty active. I follow
very.
her on Instagram, and she's I think she'll be excited. I've always loved Jennifer Love Hewitt. She was one of my favorite actresses back in the 90s. So I think she'll have fun with it.
Fair enough, and I mean there is something they can do with it because obviously the standard of the original movies and then the TV show, which from what I saw anyway was complete trash. I mean it's a pretty low standard, so it's probably something you can bring back and try and do an update on. Actually, that's something I meant to ask you with Kevin Williamson because
Mm,
another concern I have about him coming back is I think every person has their sort of like era and sell by date. So
mhm.
I think that would be a concern is like, does he have it in him to freshen things up for a new era?
Yeah,
I think
it will
that's,
be interesting. Mm,
yeah, because, as much as nostalgia is big and everything, I think we want some modern y-
definitely.
feel
Well, like I
in,
said,
yeah,
I think something in his favor is the fact that he has been so involved in this franchise for so long. He knows the characters, he knows the story, he knows what the world is like. Him being producer on number 5 and 6, I think will help. So I think I think he'll have his finger on the pulse. We'll just have to see. Like I said, my biggest concern is like how's he going to direct the horror scenes and how's he going to go
yeah,
with like making this movie tense and making it feel like a Scream movie. But I want to give him the benefit of the doubt, and see
sure.
see where he goes.
Yeah. Okay. So, okay, this is a good question from entertainment. Now that Melissa and Jenna are not in the Scream franchise, for now at least, are there any other horror franchises you would like to see them in? It's a good.
Actually, I literally just yesterday made some fan art casting Melissa Barrera in a gender bent version of The Crow, because I was thinking of the latest Crow
I
remake, which
saw that.
apparently is not going down well.
Terrible.
Um,
Yeah.
I think, the original Crow with Brandon Lee, it's just so iconic and obviously surrounded by so much tragedy and everything that it's
Yeah.
it's just hard to imagine a reimagining. But I was actually watching a video essay yesterday by one of the YouTubers I follow, and she was digging into the legacy of The Crow and, where it started with the graphic novel. And she pointed out that, like, we've literally never had a female crow on screen, despite the fact that they have had female crows in the comics. So yeah, I was thinking, who could play the female crow? Who could play a female version of Eric? And for some reason, Melissa just sprang to mind. I think because I thought that she could play that darker side after seeing her play the slightly darker side to Sam, and even in Abigail, she's playing a slightly rougher character. So I kind of like the idea of her as, yeah, a female Eric, and I think that she could really do that. So yeah, if you want to go over to my Instagram, I posted that
Yeah.
yesterday. I had a lot of
I
fun
did
making
see
the
that.
poster.
It's good.
For
It's good.
Jenna, Jenna's making such a name for herself anyway in the horror like fandom. She's got Wednesday coming out. She's about to do Beetlejuice. If they ever did a remake of a better remake of The Craft, because the one that came out a few years ago was crap, I could see
Okay.
her as Nancy. Don't you think she'd make a good Nancy? I think she could make a
Yeah.
good new Nancy.
Possibly, I could see that. Yeah, The
Mm,
Craft is a good shout.
mm.
I'm not too sure. Like, I think with Melissa, I actually wouldn't mind see her do some action movies because I think she's got the physicality for that and is,
I agree.
because she is maybe a little bit more masculine and not so obviously kind of, glamorous and stuff.
Mm,
I think, yeah, I could see her in some quite meaty sort of action type roles.
yeah.
Um, yeah, Jenna, it's tough. Like, I think she might just bounce about between things anyway, and like, definitely with both, I think it's important they don't get typecast in horror. Like,
Mm.
I think they both have a role to play. I think at this point, because Jenna is the bigger star, like, I would say for her, it's even more important not to be typecast. Like, maybe she does, and sometimes with someone like that sort of level, it can be a bit distracting if you just sort of pop them into, like, I don't know, like a supporting role in like a Friday the 13th type movie or whatever. Whereas I think maybe Melissa can blend in a little bit more naturally at this point. But yeah, I definitely want to see them do a variety of stuff, really, between them. Let's see. There's no such thing as a bad Scream movie. Well, that's not true because Scream 3 exists. Very mature, Rachel. Mickey should have gotten away. Okay. My ranking could change after 7 comes out.
Fair
Yeah,
enough, Russell. Yeah, that's fair enough.
without doubt. Without doubt. Freddie Prinze Jr. has a great role in Bones. Okay, I've never seen
Okay,
him. I've never
neither have
seen
I.
any
Mm.
Bones, so that's interesting. Jenny, bring them in. Oh, I know what you did last summer. Yeah, maybe. I mean, maybe not the next movie because that already seems to have quite a lot of stars in it. What action movies would you want to see, Marissa? Well, not that I want to see a remake of it, but I could actually see her in like if they did a new version of Point Break or something like that. Like if they switched up the gender, even in like the villain role, or she could just take the Tory, is it Tory Petty role from the
Very
original?
petty. Mm.
Yeah, she could play that role maybe, I think, but They could change up the gender. They could have her in like the Keanu Reeves role or something like that. But
Female, or she could do female John Wick, Joanne Wick.
there you have it. Very good. But yeah, I can see her in sort of action style roles. I could see that. Maybe in a good like noir style detective type film. I could see her in that as well. Who are some of your favourite final girls and boys in the horror space? For me, I love Nancy, Sam, Ash, and Andy. Okay, well, we are going to do a top 10 list in October, so we maybe won't say every. I know Rachel's already said Sydney. I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of Laurie. Ripley out of Aliens, definitely one of my favorites. Such an important and iconic character, especially for the sci-fi genre. Also, one that I think gets a bit overlooked is Kirsty from Hellraiser. I think she's a really good final gal. And we just filmed our Terminator review the other day, but Sarah Connor, I think, in that movie fits into that as well. So yeah, there's a few ideas, and we'll return
top 10. Yeah.
in
But yeah,
October.
now like I said, I love Sydney. Sydney Prescott is ultimate final girl for me. Laurie Strode as well, obviously, and Nancy. One that I think gets severely overlooked, a final girl that I think get overlooked, and she actually predates Laurie Strode as well, is Jess Bradford from Black Christmas. I think she's fantastic. And yeah. As for final boys, I don't know that I know a lot of final boys. I mean, I guess you've got Alex from Final Destination. I don't mind him. But yeah, it's not usually boys, it's usually final girls. So that's an interesting question. Oh, I do love Josh and Dina from Fear Street, final siblings. So Josh is one of the final boys that I love. But yeah, that could be another interesting one. But yes, entertainment lover, Keith and I do top 10 lists on his channel. So we are going to do our top 10 final girls at some point. So tune in for that one.
Yeah, I mean, maybe with guys, it just stands out less, because we obviously used to a bit of an inequality, and I think there's just a bit of history with horror of like like that trope becoming a thing as far back as like the 60s or 70s. So since then, it's always been a bit of a tradition, and it's something that's in the favor of the horror genre, and it has been so progressive over the years.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason that women love horror. Like, I've always kind of looked into that. If you look at horror audiences, women love horror. I mean, they always make up huge amounts of horror fandoms. And I do think that that's one of the reasons why, because horror is one of the few genres where women actually get to be leads, where women get to be powerful, where women actually get to be developed characters. And so I think that just draws girls to the horror genre. And because you get to see all these awesome kick-ass ladies, and it's just, yeah, really, really fun. Door Handle says Cindy and Brenda from Scary Movie. Definitely Brenda. I love Brenda. She's always telling Cindy off for Cindy's bullshit. It's great.
Fair play. Russell also says Alien 1 gets a lot of heat. I actually like. Does it get a lot of heat? I mean, I didn't think it did.
I think it's because Aliens has become so popular.
Yeah.
Like everyone, like I think Alien the original is still held up as like, a great, amazing sci-fi horror movie. But I think because Aliens is a little bit more actiony, and Ripley gets a little bit more, in Aliens. I think the first one does get overshadowed a little bit by the second one.
Yeah. But yeah, no, they play it nicely. It's a nice sort of surprise in that original movie then.
Oh yeah.
Because the way it's built with the casting, it seems like everyone's equal and that she's just another member of the crew, and she slowly grows. Did several. Yeah. Well, yeah.
Linda Blair has a really fun cameo in Supernatural. It's in season 2. And she plays this cop that helps the Winchesters out. And at the end of the episode, as Sam and Dean are walking off, Dean's like, did she look familiar to you? And then Sam's like, no. And then Dean's like, man, could really go for some pea soup right now. So I always like that.
Okay. Cool. Very fun. Okay. Well, we've had a good night. Yeah, I need to see more of Supernatural, obviously, but
Something I'll get him to watch, guys. Keith and I will definitely watch
I am a
at
big.
least the first 5 seasons. Then afterwards, we'll
We'll
see.
see about that, but I am a big Linda Blair fan, definitely, and who can forget a classic cameo in the spoof movie Repossessed with
Seen it. I haven't
it's
seen it.
yeah, it's so funny. Like Leslie Nielsen playing like
Oh
the
well,
father
Leslie
as
Nielsen.
well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome, and they get like wrestling commentators to do cameos and like
Awesome.
commenting on the exorcism. It's so funny. Okay. 1 to 5 is that's what a lot of people say. Okay, what I'll do is I'm gonna play the trailer for Teaching Miss Tingle because I said we're gonna cover that in the future. And if you guys have any other questions, then put them in the chat as I play the trailer. But this is the trailer for Teaching Miss Tingle, Kevin Williamson's previous directed movie.
All her life, Leanne Watson has done the right things. Her only ticket out of
Katie
town
Holmes looks
is the
so
one
young.
scholarship that goes to her school's top student. All she needs is an A in history. There's just one problem.
I love the voiceover.
Yeah, me
The
too.
history teacher.
Mrs. Tingle, she hates me.
No
She
way.
hates everyone. She even hates me.
Whenever I
Give it to
walk in the room,
A-Fox.
she's lying in wait, just ready to rip
Thanks,
skin and draw blood.
Ooh, look at Miss Tingle.
Even
just
Helen
Tingle's final
Mirren
exam.
looked young.
Tempting,
That's
isn't
how
it?
long ago it was.
Slither away. Let's go.
The smartest girl in school caught cheating. It'll be
Oh,
scandalous.
Like she's in her like
We're
40s.
going to be expelled. No
Oh no,
graduation, no
not for a
nothing.
minute I thought
We'll
that
just
was
explain that
like
you weren't
the guy out
involved.
of Supernatural.
No, that's the guy from Seventh Heaven.
I'm innocent.
Okay.
Even the innocent sometimes
know
burn
what
at the
Seventh
stake.
Heaven
Now get out of my house.
Not so fast.
What do you think you're doing?
Whoa.
You can't keep treating people the way you do.
No?
Don't be stupid.
Trailer?
Put it
God,
down.
giving everything away.
You lose, Mr. Turner.
From Kevin Williamson.
Mrs. Tingle. Oh my God.
We should give her mouth to mouth.
I'm not gonna do it.
Okay, a wicked film.
Watch your head.
Sorry. What
God.
will we do now? When she wakes up, we'll reason with her.
Now, 3 friends
This is so Jerry Springer.
in completely over their heads
You're a mooch.
have to find their way out of an impossible
But
situation.
why
What's the
did we
matter,
stop
Mrs. Tingle?
using
Are you getting a little
voiceovers in
scared yourself?
trailers?
Oh, no, dear. Things are just starting to get fun.
Oh yeah, I gotta watch this movie again.
Bit of garbage.
I can't wait till we watch this
For
again.
20
It's gonna be
years, she's
fantastic.
terrorized her students.
What I have planned for you is a fate worse than death.
This year, they're going to give her a lesson. Teaching Mrs. Tingle.
Yeah, the voiceover guy is great in that.
So good.
Yeah, I also miss trailers like that. So what is
know, right?
what is Seventh Heaven?
You've never seen Seventh Heaven or heard of Seventh Heaven? Are you kidding,
I
Keith?
might have heard of it, but you're talking
Seven?
like it's some massive show from.
Yeah, it was. It ran for like
Was
10
it?
seasons.
Really? Maybe it was
Yeah.
bigger in the States than over here.
Uh-huh.
but-
So Seventh Heaven centered around a pastor and his wife and their 5 kids. And it was the most saccharine after school type special show you will ever come across. There is literally an episode where the oldest daughter steals a water glass from the local pizza place and her brother takes the fall for her and he ends up going to court because the pizza place guy wants to teach him a lesson, and then all of the kids come in showing how they've all stolen stuff, and everyone's like, "This is just what kids do." No, I'm actually being completely serious when I say this. Like, you have got to check out this show. It is the worst, and also it has a very bad legacy because the guy who played the father ended up being a complete pervert. So yeah, but you know Jessica Biel, the actress Jessica Biel.
Yeah, she's.
That's
good.
where she started. That was like her
Yeah, she's
first
a good
big role.
actress.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
okay.
yeah, go and have a look, Keith. You will get a huge laugh out of Seventh Heaven. It is so
Okay.
bad, so
Okay.
bad.
Well, it's one for the pilot stream 1 week. So Okay, some of your favorite. What are some of your favorite teen movies from the 90s, early 2000s? So Faculty, which is a good one. H2O, which is still my favorite Halloween sequel. Dick is an interesting one with
Dick is
Kirsten
so
Dunst
much fun.
and
Kirsten Dunst and Michelle Williams in the 70s playing two girls who apparently really love Richard Nixon.
yeah, yeah. That's quite an underrated one. Disturbing Behavior. That's Katie Holmes again, isn't it?
It's kind of like, have you seen it?
Yeah. I think I've seen it once, but it was a long time ago.
Katie Holmes, James Marsden,
Yeah.
Nick Stahl, and it's almost kind of like a teenage version of the Stepford Wives. So
Yeah.
there's like teenagers being reprogrammed. I actually quite like Disturbing Behavior. That's a really good shout, entertainment lover. I really like that. So what about
Okay.
you, Keith? What would yours be
I'll have to
from this
check
period?
out some of from this period. Well, I mean, we all know Valentine is a bit of an underrated
Oh, we
gem.
loved that, didn't we?
We did. The Denise Richards kill is a bit of a gem. And the scene with the video screens was just insane. And the big
So I don't know if entertainment lover is talking just like horror, because if we're talking just horror, I would have like I Know What You Did Last Summer, The Faculty, Final Destination, like Russell's just pointed out, definitely H2O. But if we're mixing some of the other ones, some
I
of
think
the other
I'll
teen
watch
movies in there at that point, I'd also throw in 10 Things I Hate About You, which is my favorite teen comedy. Absolutely love that one. Bring It On. Bring It On is fantastic. Absolutely love Bring It On. Keith still needs to see that one. If we want to go with the drama, there's a little teen drama from I think it's 2003 called Crazy Beautiful, which stars Kirsten Dunst and Jay Hernandez, and it is one of my favorite teen dramas of all time. So that's another one from that time. Oh, and there was another little coming of age film that came out around this time with Dominique Swain and Patrick. Oh, I can't remember what his last name is. Dominic Swain, it's called Girl. And it's just this little coming of age story where Dominic Swain just plays this young girl in her final year of high school. And it's just showing her final year. It's also got Selma Blair and Tara Reid. Very, very early 2000s. Very underrated. And I recently found it on Tubi. And I was so excited because I haven't been able to find it since the early 2000s. So there's a list from me.
Is it just called Gal? Just called Gal?
Girl. It's just called Girl.
Okay. Cool. Well, I mean, even though when we reviewed it, I said it didn't really hold up as well as I hoped. Urban Legend, I do have fun memories of, and it's a fun idea at least, and it's a little bit of a guilty pleasure.
And you've at least got like Robert Englund and Danielle. From Halloween.
Harris,
what's her name? Yeah. Danielle Harris. So you've got a few like cameos in there that we can have fun with.
Yeah.
Oh, and Brad Dourif, of course, as the gas station attendant.
Yeah, they do well with the sort of cheeky horror type references. I mean, I would have to think. I mean, obviously, if you're including it, like definitely the Virgin Suicides, because that was the early. Again, for more of a drama, like me and Rachel both really like that movie.
Beautiful movie.
Yeah. So that's one I would definitely put up there. Yeah, Faculty I do like quite a lot. It's been a while since I've seen it, but I do like Faculty quite a lot. So I'm trying to think.
Like teen Invasion of the Body Snatchers, isn't it? That's kind of how you can look at Faculty.
Well, I just thought of another one I would throw in, which again is like more on the indie quirky side, but Electrum with Reese Witherspoon. That's
yes, and Matthew Broderick. Yeah. Yes. Oh man, Reese is so good in that. She's freaking terrifying as Tracy Flick. Like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
we should review that one. I haven't seen that in years.
Yeah, that's a good one. Alexandra Payne directs that one. But I mean, Matthew Broderick sort of playing against type a little bit. Like
the smarmy teacher trying to take down Reese Witherspoon.
Yeah.
Speaking of Reese Witherspoon, I'd also throw Legally Blonde into the mix because I freaking love Legally
Okay.
Blonde,
Good
and
shout.
Elle Woods is an icon. Oh, and I have to mention from this time teen movies, a movie close to my heart, which is Bend It Like Beckham, because it was honestly one of the first times I ever saw someone who looked like me in the lead role.
Yeah.
It was
Sure.
just so great, and it's a British film, and I love British comedy, so fun. So yes, love Bend It Like Beckham.
Yeah. Yeah, and that definitely counts as a coming of age. So
Yes.
yeah, cool. Okay. Well, some good choices there. Lots to talk about as always. So yeah, I think we'll round up the stream at this point, but we will be back soon with more streams, more live reviews. Obviously going to be quite busy during October. But thank you everyone. Thanks for the comments. It's been a good stream.
Just before we go, looks like Entertainment Lover got in with last question. Oh, Annika's death was horrible, especially when she's screaming, "I don't want to die, I don't want to die," and you just feel so bad for her. For me, yeah, I'm kind of with Russell. It's got to be either Dewey or Tatum. The Riley siblings basically really get me.
Yeah.
Tatum puts up such a good fight, and then that horror that she has as she can literally see her doom coming towards her.
Yeah.
It's awful. But yeah, Dewey's is heartbreaking, obviously, because there's the emotion. Dewey's death, the only time I have ever cried in a film movie, in a screen movie rather, was Dewey's death. What would
Okay.
be yours, Keith? What would be yours?
I mean, obviously, with Dewey, there's a bit more history, so I can see that. But I think I would go with Tatum, because I think in that movie, there's no reason to think she might not have made it towards the end. And like you said, it's a brave fight. I think at that point, we're invested in her enough. And it's a very memorable scene. I mean, obviously, if I'm comparing the scenes, I think that scene is more memorable than Dewey's death in 5. But yeah, I would probably go with Tatum's maybe. So yeah.
Cool.
Yeah,
Thanks for your
good
questions,
question.
Entertainment. That was really fun.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. And it's been a fun stream. I will do an edited version of this also. But yeah, look for more horror chat from us in the future. Rachel, I'll give you a chance to promote your channel before we go.
Thanks, guys. You can follow me, Rachel Macdonald, video essays on TV shows and movies. And I do mostly just do early 2000s. So entertainment, if you want some early 2000s stuff, head on over. I do have some Scream videos, and I am just this week working on a video for a Buffyverse character, Cordelia Chase, which hopefully will be up later this week. So my Tumblr's linked through there, and my Instagram will be linked through there soon as well. So come and follow me everywhere. Oh, and look, NI87 has jumped in right at the end. Hello. Nice to see
Hello.
you.
Hey. From
sunny
sunny
Australia.
as well. And is it sunny, Rachel? Can you confirm?
Actually is sunny
It's,
today. Yes.
very nice. Cool.
Oh, thanks, Entertainment.
Yeah, nice to see you at M187. And thank you to Entertainment for subscribing to both channels. Helps out a lot. Okay, thank you, everyone. We'll be back with more soon. Have a good night. Take care. We'll see you again soon. Goodbye.